Uh, Good morning. Thank you for coming. This is the Pilgrim's class, the 11th and 12th grade class, and we're here to do sort of a presentation about sort of your relationship and if you have a child, your child's relationship with technology today and how best to interact with it and what you need to know about it. It won't go to the next slide. Oh, this is the end. Yeah. This is all the way back. Gotta go back to the beginning. There it is.
Okay, so I'm Betsy, and oh my lord. Okay, I mean it makes sense for me because I'm short, but so the first platform that I'm going to be talking about is Snapchat, which is a platform that you may or may not have noticed a lot of your kids or grandkids using. It's a pretty popular platform, especially among people that I know, like at my school. So essentially, there are three things that you can do on Snapchat. You can send and receive Snapchats or snaps. You can post and view stories, and there are discover stories. So Snapchats are images or like 10-second videos that you can send to your friends on Snapchat, and you can only view them a maximum of 2 times, and then they disappear. So that's kind of the good thing about Snapchat, is that even if you send something that maybe you weren't supposed to, like, it basically disappears after a maximum of 10 seconds. So that is a big plus to Snapchat. And you have to like accept like kind of friend requests before people can send you Snapchats. So that's a really good way to like kind of filter out anybody who might like randomly request to follow you that you don't know. And stories are kind of similar to Snapchat, except they're viewable to anybody who's added you unless you make a custom story. And they are visible for 24 hours, and you can view it as many times as you'd like. So as anybody here can tell you, I use Snapchat a lot. I post a lot of my stories. And essentially, Snapchat stories are used by a lot of people as kind of like picture or video diaries. Like they'll use their stories to kind of give people like updates on their life, or like if they're, you know, at a party or like a fun event, they'll post a lot to their story so that people can like see that they're having a good time. And the last thing is discover stories, which are, you know, magazines and news sources that range from BuzzFeed to like the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal, that can post kind of abridged versions of the articles that you might find like on their website or in their like print, if they have that. And so you can read articles from like the Washington Post just on Snapchat. So.
Also, there's a new feature called the Snap Map. Oh yeah, I'm Luke. Hello, everyone. There's a new feature that came up like 6 months ago. It's called the Snap Map. It's kind of creepy, honestly, if you ask me about it. So it's like everyone has this avatar they've made called a bit emoji. So you can be as creative as you want. So you can make one. Mine looks fairly like myself or my little brother, but he has like a full beard on his, but he's only 13, which I find fairly entertaining. And you can basically see where these people are located in the world. So like right now, my brother's on a correspondence trip in Paris. So now he's in Paris, and he's like wearing a little beret because he's like his little avatar thing. I find this kind of creepy because people can find out where people live and are the whole time. But there's ways to counteract this by turning off your Bitmoji completely, or only selecting certain people that can actually look at it. So for me, I've only selected certain individuals that I like have high trust in, like my close friends and some family members who can actually see where I am the whole time.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Instagram, and this is probably what I'm Jessie. For a lot of you guys, this is what you may perceive, this is what the role that, like the main presence on social media that you guys might think Facebook serves. because this is really where you're going to know, this is where you follow everyone who goes to your school. This is like your main presence, or like what you want to be most presentable. So I put up, that's my page. I have some pictures from our trip to Banff, some dogs, went to California, stuff like that. And yeah, so that's what actually, there's kind of two uses for the app at the or at least a lot for girls, where you have a Rinsta and a Finsta. So your Rinsta, which is what I put up, that's like what you want the world to see you as. I have like 800 followers, which is actually not a lot compared to people at my school. And then the other use is if you're Finsta, that's kind of like for your close friends, and that's where you can actually post whatever you want. I do like a lot of vlogging and stuff where I'm just messing around. And yeah, so that's what the main thing about Instagram is. That's probably your biggest presence.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steven Heckler, and today I'll be talking about Facebook. And I'm pretty sure many of you know what Facebook is. It is one of the biggest platforms today for social media. It is a way for you to create a profile. It's like your name, last name. You can say where you went to school. And basically, like Instagram, you can post pictures, but unlike Twitter and Instagram, you can post like full paragraphs, you can post like what's on your mind, you can post your vacations and all that. But me, myself, I do not usually use Facebook for the main platform. Facebook is also very convenient for creating groups. For me, I am in stage crew at Wooten, so Facebook easily allows you to create a group so everyone can be in one place, so you can make announcements whenever you want, everyone up to date. Because I know I am not good with schedules, so I'm very lucky that whenever Facebook, someone posts in the notification, hey, we have stage crew this day. I didn't know that. Also, your friend has a birthday tomorrow. I also didn't know that. So it is very, very useful for reminding you of many things you would usually have to take the time to remember. The other thing I'm going to be talking about is Facebook Messenger. This is one of the most important things basically I use on my phone, because not only does Facebook Messenger allow you to contact your friends outside school 24/7, but you can also combine the regular messaging app on your phone with Facebook Messenger. And I know for Apple users, they don't have the bubbles for Facebook, but for Android, it's very convenient because they have these little chat bubbles that can come and go. You can decide which one you want on your screen or not, and it just like kind of gives you like a preview of the message, and you can click into it. And it's very convenient for like talking to parents whenever you need to, talking to friends, and it's a quick, easy way to be in contact with anybody you want to.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Darby. I'm going to be talking about Musical.ly, which I think is one of the lesser-known social media apps, especially with like parents, because it's more of an app that younger teenagers and tweens have. So it's basically a video recording app where you can record yourself singing or dancing or lip syncing like a song of your choice, and you can post it to your wall, and whoever follows you can see it. And I think with this app, you really like need to make sure what your child, like you need to know what your child's posting and who's following them, because a lot of the like big stars on this app got famous or are famous because they tend to dance to or wear more risque clothing or risque songs. So, and I know a lot of kids are very influenced by these people, so some kids do. And it's more of a 50-50 because I know kids who have it and they're making funny or silly videos like singing to songs, and there's also some kids who, you know, are being a little more scandalous. But yeah, that's Musical.ly.
Hi, I'm Owen, and this is YouTube. It's a video streaming website that was founded in the early 2000s, and it's really popular now. I think it's the second most used social media thing in the world behind Facebook. It has 1.5 billion users, but it's basically come to replace cable among our generation. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've used cable, but like for Netflix, I'll watch like, you know, a few shows, but this is the vast majority of my time spent watching things. It's on YouTube. There's a lot of different genres on YouTube. You can watch commentary channels, you can watch viral videos, you can watch news, politics. There's everything on YouTube, everything you want to watch. Funding, it works a lot like TV, where every second or third video you watch, there'll be an advertisement before it, and that'll go to the creators, so they can get a decent living. You can subscribe to YouTubers you like, and you can get their videos every time they publish it into your feed. I really love the site, but there are some things to be concerned about. Like, there's absolutely no filter on the regular website, so I wouldn't let your kids use it unless they're like middle school age or above. There's also a children's YouTube app, which is a version of YouTube, except they kind of filter out all the inappropriate material, so you can kind of just give it to your kids. But that is dangerous because a lot of things get past the algorithms, and there are a lot of weird, like inappropriate videos on the children's YouTube app. And if you don't know about that, you can Google it, and I'm sure you'll find an article on the Washington Post, but there's a lot of strange material out there on the children's YouTube app, so you should probably be careful about that.
It's for Bessie. Bring it back down. Come back over here. Come back.
I'm back, and I'm talking about Twitter this time.
I forgot.
I think they know my name, Steven.
We don't.
Okay, so Twitter is, I think, one of the most versatile social media platforms. It is used by basically everybody from political figures to celebrities to just normal teenagers. And there are a lot of uses for Twitter. Like, you can, again, use it for like news sources. Like, a lot of magazines and newspapers will have Twitter accounts where they can publish like their headlines and then link to their article if you're interested in reading it. A lot of celebrities use Twitter for various and sundry reasons. A lot of political figures use Twitter, as I'm sure we're all familiar with at this point. I use Twitter for a lot of different things. I follow a number of celebrities, I follow my friends, and I also follow a few different political figures. I've followed a lot of political movements on Twitter, such as the Never Again and the Time's Up movements, which their organizers and creators can post a lot of updates about, events. So there's a lot on Twitter now about the March for Our Lives next week. So you can keep updated on a lot of that. Twitter is also famous for like shower thoughts profiles and stuff like that, where people can just sort of post their most random thoughts like out to the world, and turns out sometimes they're really funny. So Twitter is a great source for like comedic material. And a lot of, as I've discovered over the past couple of years, a lot of colleges also have Twitters for like their admissions processes and things like that. So, and I know that my high school college counseling office has a Twitter where they can post about scholarships and different opportunities in the college process. So basically everybody uses Twitter. It just depends on what you use it for.
Hello, in case you forgot, my name is Steven Heckler, and I will be talking about video games. Video games can be played on many platforms that the youth growing up, and I'm pretty sure many of you have also played. Recently, the main two platforms are console and PC. Right now, as you can see, we have basically just console on here, which is the Xbox and PS4. And I would most certainly advise what your children are playing at home, because most of these games that are on the PS4, Xbox, and PC are not appropriate for most children growing up. Now, growing up, I would usually give your kids Nintendo, because like Mario, kid-friendly, Splatoon, also kid-friendly, Pokemon, I would definitely recommend. But also, if you let your kids on these games, such as Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto, first of all, they are very, very violent games, and that is not good for your kids to be playing at such an early age. But also, I would like to talk about the community on these video games. I myself play a game called Counter-Strike Global Offensive at home, and just so you know, voice enable is your best friend, because people on these games have no filter whatsoever when they're speaking. The stuff they say is highly inappropriate for young children to be listening to, so I would definitely recommend you, as parents, if you have children growing up playing these games, to definitely monitor what they are playing, because most of the stuff is not healthy for them to be growing up with.
But he plays all of them.
But I will let you know that I did not play these violent video games as a younger child. My parents did monitor my gaming, which I am thankful. I grew up playing Pokemon. Leapfrog was great during long car rides. Yes.
Yes.
Tamagotchi. Love those.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about use of technology in schools, which is actually so high. I can't remember the last day I went to school and we didn't grab a Chromebook the first time we entered the classroom, because each classroom is equipped with a set of 30 Chromebooks. So we use that for pretty much every assignment, or most assignments at least. And it's also, like, Google Classroom is what you use a lot of things for, and it changes the way you do homework, and because a lot of things are due at 11:59 p.m. pretty much every assignment. So I've spent many a Fridays at 11:58 turning assignments in, because teachers can make things due whenever they want. I mean, I was on the Bay trip with the youth group, and I had a Chem Quest due at 11:30 on Saturday morning. So I was in my tent on my computer doing my chem homework. So it changes the way you have to do things, and you can't do things like on the bus before school, but it also offers like way more access to things, like we can look at all these documents online for like my history class, or you can also, Google Docs is a great way to, you can get edit on papers, because you can, that's how we do most of our assignments. You can share your Google Doc with anyone and they can edit it live at any time. So it's really helpful in like collaborating too, because you can share any document with anyone. But yeah, yeah.
I'm going to be talking about internet culture and memes. My name is Peter Heckler. And so the thing is, with internet culture, it's not really like communicating with other people so much, so you don't have to worry about like stranger danger, your kid talking to strangers and stuff like that. But first we have Vine, which is an app that has 6-second videos that are very quotable and sort of creates like a communication amongst like the younger generation that used to watch Vine. And it sort of like alienates our parents in a way, because like we'll say Vines that like we can all relate to as kids who have seen them, but like our parents have no clue what we're talking about. So like yeah, that's part of it. I mean, so like during dinner, like I'll turn to Steven and like say a Vine, and then we'll both start laughing about it. And then my parents will be like, why are you guys like not including us in this? So it's like, yeah. And then there's also memes, and a meme is basically just like a funny image or anything funny on the internet that you can share with other people that you know. Like I know that my dad on Facebook, he finds like funny posts and then will like post them for all of his friends to share in a different way that is a meme, because it's sharing something funny. This one is like a fancy dog, and it's like when you use the word pardon instead of what, and it's like it's feeling all fancy. And then this other meme is like, I need a doctor's appointment, and then she's like, okay, how about 10 tomorrow? And he's like, I don't need that many. And it's like, so it's just like small funny things like that that are quick to look at, good for an easy laugh. Some of them, however, can be kind of inappropriate at times. So like they're all over the internet. They're on Instagram, on like this app iFunny, on Reddit. Like they're all on different forms of social media. They're everywhere. And some of them can be inappropriate. So it's important to make sure that like what your child would be seeing would be something that is like one of these clean, funny memes, and not something that would be more inappropriate. And yeah.
Here we have a blank space because we're missing Paige. So I'll try to fill in as best I can. Hi, I'm Isaac again. I was here at the beginning. Yeah. So basically what this is about is influencers. And there's a lot of people who have gained popularity and fame from the internet and from other platforms, but they're on the internet. And so what companies can do is, let's say if you have someone really famous for like being on Instagram, someone, like a company could come to them and say, we'll give you this amount of money if you tell the people who adore you and listen to everything you say to buy our product. And things like that, and just advertisements you see in general can be really risky, because the problem with the internet is that you have no idea if people are telling the truth. There's no real solid way to figure that out, which is why you don't like stranger dangers. It's a thing. So basically, this is about, like, I don't know what this picture is particularly. I think it's this girl is saying, hey, you want to have clear skin, buy this product. And then people are just all after that saying, whoa, I'll buy that because you told me to. That is not a very good mentality. It can lead to a lot of bad situations. So after this, we sort of have a Q&A. If you want to tell us, like, ask us any questions, we'll try to answer as a group, or just about our specific platform. And to sort of start it off, I have a question, if you guys want to answer, or I can answer my own question. And it's sort of like the generic, how do I keep my child safe? Like, what should I be concerned with as far as like privacy and things go? And there's the very sort of well-known, like, don't add people that you don't know in real life, or don't disclose private information. And however, like, widespread and known that is, it's really important, because you sort of hear it as so many times you get numb to it. You're like, oh yeah, I know that, and then you do it anyway, which is not good. So it's basically about, like, making sure your child is aware that if someone says, hey man, you seem pretty cool, what's your credit card number? Just don't tell them. It's just like things like that, like age, name, like even basic stuff, it's not good to give away. And like people that you don't know in real life, you should just make sure that they have basically no access to anything like private or location or anything like that.
Hi, I'm Luke. I would like to add on to that. So when I was younger, my parents were pretty good at restricting like inappropriate stuff on my access to the internet. So I didn't really have access to inappropriate stuff, which was, I think, really beneficial to me and my little brother. I think everyone else should probably do the same, because like you don't want your kid to go browsing on the internet and like something pops up and you're like, oh my God, what is that? I should never have seen that. You're like 5 years old and stuff. Because I know a lot of my friends have had those experiences. Luckily, I haven't. So especially if your kids are like in elementary or primary school, you definitely should have like their access to YouTube, and like they should have no access to any social media until they're like 13 years old. Maybe YouTube when they're like 8, and as kids YouTube only. No, like seriously, like no access to technology at all until they're like 8 or 10 years old. To 10 years old, because I don't know, like what are you meant to do when you're 5 years old? You're meant to go outside, play basketball with your friends, right? You're not meant to go on the internet and look at some like weird video and some, I don't know, there's a lot of weird stuff out there.
Hello, I'm Stephen Heckler, and I'd actually like to add on to privacy. With Facebook, of course, you should only friend who you want to friend, but there are two types of accounts, I think. There's private and public. If your account, you most likely will have to switch it on private. That means when you get a friend request, that means you have to approve that person to see whatever you put on your page to be able to contact you. If your account is on public, which I think is for Twitter and also Instagram, anybody can follow you without you knowing. They can see whatever you're doing. They can message you without you knowing. And especially for Facebook, there are many clickbait articles as well that basically get you, like, they have like silly little titles like, figure out how this man survived trap, I don't know, like, just really, I'd never really click on them since I'm a safe kind of guy. But also, with Facebook, there are many attempted hacks, but Facebook is also a very good platform because they are very good at detecting hacks. Usually when your account gets hacked, like I think mine was almost hacked, I think about a month ago, but Facebook gets right on top of it. They immediately notify you. They're like, hello, your profile is under attack currently. Can you please switch your passwords, switch safety settings, and they basically alarm you. And with the point of video games on the PC platform, Steam is the biggest basically platform to download games, have friends, contact, and with Steam, you can friend random people that you've never met on the internet if you just want to play with them, but if you do friend these people, usually you never talk to them outside the game. If they start messaging you and you try to get to know them, and if they try to get your password, never have your children or you give any information, let alone your username, even though they know your username, or your password. Because if they get to your password, then they can get to your friends, they can get to your personal information inside your account. And it's very good to monitor to make sure your children are not really talking to these people and giving away important information.
So I just want to kind of say like you really need to make sure your child knows who they're following and who's following them, because there are times when you're like scrolling through and like, oh, that's Lily, that's Sally, oh, I don't know who that kid, but it looks like a kid, so it doesn't mean it's a kid. It doesn't mean that she's whatever, but like some kids will start talking, and I know it seems like common sense, like, oh, you don't know them, don't talk to them, but kids are way more prone, especially younger kids, to talk to kids that they think are their age, and people can take advantage of that. And so you really need to make sure they know personally who the person they're following is. So.
Also, it's. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. I should probably say that like, when you get them a phone or an iTouch, like they have Safari. Wait, what? Okay. Yeah, or an iPod, which is an iTouch. They'll like the floodgates are totally open. There's like absolutely no filter. You can access YouTube, you can access Reddit online, you can access anything, and like do not get them. I wouldn't recommend getting them an iTouch until they're in elementary school, or at least mature enough to handle it, because like you discover every single thing when you get an iTouch and an iPhone. That's all I have to say about that.
Parental settings, though, you gotta remember. You can like block stuff. You had a question?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ruth Martin. I know the World Health Organization now officially recognizes tech addiction, and I just wanted to see if you've got any advice for your parents about how they can support you in not getting addicted.
There's a lot of, if you want to say something after this, there's on a lot of devices, like new devices, phones, computers, you can access like settings in it, like parental controls, like you can set a password for yourself so that you can access it. Like what on the newest console to come out from Nintendo, the Switch that they just made, there are settings so you can say like, you can set, oh, they are only allowed to play for 2 hours every day, and like on weekends they can play for 3 hours. And you can like set certain amounts of time that they're like allotted to be on a device. And so you can like limit how much screen time they have. Also just like setting ground rules probably helps a lot.
As well, to go over, answer my mom's own question. This is, I find this fairly entertaining personally. I've been like I watch a fair bit of television, probably compared to these people, because I'm not a big video gamer or anything like that, and I like to spend my time watching good quality television like CNN. I love my man Wolf, he's a great guy. And like there's all these advertisements about like different internet providers like Xfinity. One of the recent adverts is like how their mom can turn off the internet for like their kids' like iPad and stuff, which I find finally amusing, because it's, as a provider, they're showing the users how not to use it and turn it off. So probably taking advantage of these services that are offered by Xfinity, Verizon. I think most of them have them. Being able to control when and when not your children can go on the internet, and what accesses, what websites they can access. I think it's all about restriction. I think you can't let your kid just go roam free on the internet, and when you do let them roam more openly, it has to be a gradual process. Like you can't be 4 one day and like have no access to the internet, and then on your 5th birthday you can go look at anything you want. Like it has to be gradual. So like maybe you could watch like kids YouTube from when you're 5 to like you're 10, and then 10 maybe you can go have an Instagram, and then like I don't think you should have like a full access to the internet until you're like 16 years old. We have like a bunch of questions.
Really quick, just speaking to that question. So I was actually just in a play about kids with technology addiction. I played a very manipulative video game character. But so I think the important thing with like tech addiction is, and like preventing tech addiction is just to like have a conversation with your kids about technology, and like some people have said, like set some ground rules. Like my parents, for most of the time that I've had like my own technology, like my own phone, the rule has been, you know, you can't have your phone in your bedroom at night, which honestly is a rule that I routinely break because that's where my charger is. But yeah, but just setting ground rules and stuff like that, and making sure that, you know, during the school week that they're not, you know, watching TV or playing video games when they still have homework to do. So just making sure that gaming or social media or whatever it is they do isn't like their first priority all the time. And if it is, then that's when you need to maybe have a more serious conversation with your kid and try to like limit them and hold them back a little bit more. But I think the important thing with considering it an addiction is not to overreact, because yes, a lot of people in our generation are very dependent on technology and use it a lot, but like I think that jumping to a conclusion and calling it an addiction can be a little dangerous. So just make sure you like communicate with your kid about it, and that you know that they're being responsible, and if they're not, then you can kind of pull back the reins a little bit.
So what I really haven't heard about is what I consider to be the true dark side of social media and internet. And basically, we have been, without much success, telling this to our children for the last decade. My children are, two are in college, one is now doing high school. And basically, every time you have a transaction on the internet, somebody is picking up data points on you and creating a profile on you. So my older son last summer worked for a critical organization where they are mapping every single individual in the United States, every single voter. They have 3 million data points on every user of the internet. Every time you go on and make a transaction, every time you do one of those funny little quizzes that they try to get you, those are psychological profiles, and they are mapping you, and they are using that both to sell products to you and ultimately to target you for your votes and elect people like Donald Trump. So this is the real concern that I think kids need to be aware of, is every single time you are on the internet, you are contributing to your profile that people are picking up everywhere. And like I said, when my son was working for this political organization, 3 million data points on average for every single individual in the United States.
I can say something about that. I think what sort of has a relation to that is something called cookies, and it's this like part of a lot of websites, and some of them will tell you and some of them won't that they're using this, and it basically like it'll pop up and say, hey, we're using this to like see what you're buying on Amazon. And that's why like if you go and look at hoodies on Amazon, let's say, and you go into a different website, suddenly you'll start seeing ads pop up for Amazon, like, hey, you might want to buy this hoodie now. And there's a lot of different search engines that I don't know if they like completely negate like the collection of like what you're buying and what you're looking at. There's things like Tor, and I think there's like DuckDuckGo or something like that. And it's like people are trying to make these like search engines that like, unlike Google and like the really well-known ones, they try like to really emphasize on like anonymity and like keeping your data to yourself. And I think making kids aware, like, hey, like you need to like be aware. So like if something pops up on your computer that says, hey, are you okay with us like knowing what you're buying right now, and like just sending that to people, normally you're gonna want to go, oh, I don't want you to do that. So you like go to a different website, or you just like, I don't know if you can turn it off, you probably can, but it's just, yeah. So it's just a good idea to be aware, like make sure that they know about it.
To add on to that point, I wasn't too sure about this when I first heard this, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. So I decided to just Google something, completely random. So I decided to Google best place to buy elk meat in some place in Switzerland, but it just doesn't exist. You don't have elk in Europe anywhere. So, and then after I searched through that for like 30 minutes, like looking for something that didn't exist. And then a few days later, I noticed on a web ad, it was talking about elk meat from a place called Eureka, California. And I was like, okay, elk meat. And like there's no way on earth that would have been advertised on like some sports page without looking at my search history, which I found really kind of creepy. Like Big Brother's looking over your shoulder and everything.
Can I answer that real quick? I want to Microsoft. So to answer your question, everyone has a digital footprint. It's a race for data. The amount of data, whether you're talking to Alexa, whether you're talking to Siri, it picks all of that up. So there's 3 companies that are really going after everyone's data, children as well as adults, to not only market information, but to also sell information. But it's across the entire gamut. Children, teenagers, as well as adults. Everyone's just trying to win the market for the amount of data. And what do you do with that data for the students? It's to do research for school. For us, it's to do research either for work or for what do you want to search for, washer or dryer or something like that. So really, it's really about monitoring what your kids use, but also you talked about elk in Switzerland. I'm at home using Alexa. I just ask a question. Next time I boot up my PC, it's giving me stuff that I just did a quick search on. So yeah, even artificial intelligence behind all of these data platforms is capturing everything that we say, everything that we do, every time you check in on any device that you have. So it's across the entire gamut.
How old were you guys when you got your first internet-enabled cell phone, and how did your parents handle that?
I'm just gonna go first. I think my first ever phone was actually a flip phone. I think that was around middle school. I actually didn't think I had a phone all throughout elementary school because my parents usually kept a close eye on what I was doing outside. But also, and then going into middle school, I did not get a smartphone until I think 8th grade, 6th and 7th. All my parents felt like I needed, and I think I'm grateful for, was like one of those phones that you just flipped up, had a keyboard, just easy, just for text messaging, and that was about it. Because growing up, I felt like it wasn't necessary to be on the internet. I like talking to my friends, I like going out, and usually phones growing up, I feel like only should be used for contacting your parents saying, I'm over here, you know where I am, I'm hanging out with like Jimmy over at the pool, you don't have to worry where I am, but if you want to go pick me up, if your parents need you home for an event, they can just message you real quick so you know. And then forward on, when you do get your first smartphone, you should also definitely monitor what your children are putting on these phones. And then going on to the later grades, you can just ease up on your internet security and kind of like, you can let your kids go on from there. That's what I feel like.
Okay, so I had a iTouch in like 3rd grade, and everything was kind of like put off. You couldn't go onto Safari, and it was all kind of like play around game apps. But I got my first phone in 7th grade, which is what my parents have like kept for the rest of my sisters, for my younger sisters. And I really we weren't allowed to go on Safari, and for the first year at least, because I had to really push my mom, like going into 8th grade, for social media apps. But like up until now, my mom has to approve every app I request. So before, I couldn't even like request app. I had to bring my phone to my mom and say, Mom, like, let me have this app. And she's like, okay, and put the thing in. But like now, I can like request an app, and it just sends her like a message, and like she goes, yeah, okay, why not, and like gives me the app. So yeah, and I think like middle school is like a good age to give your child a phone, because no matter what, like kids are gonna make mistakes with technology, and I think it's like a matter of when you want it to happen. Like I know like kids in elementary school have phones, and I don't think like that's super smart. Like middle school, like everyone's learning like who they are and like changing and stuff like that. So yeah, like it doesn't matter if you give your kid like a phone in 7th grade in middle school or going into high school, they're gonna make mistakes with it. but it just like determines like when they're gonna learn. So yeah.
We have another question over here.
Yeah, it's actually along the lines of what you just said about you're going to make mistakes no matter how old you are, and that's also true of our generation. So it makes me wonder, given that you can't be so protective with your kids that you can prevent them from making mistakes ever. At the same time, I worry that social media and other technology that didn't exist when I was their age is a tool that they're going to have to learn to use. And if I err too far in the other direction, like, okay, you can't use this stuff that you are eventually going to need to use, then when they have to use it in high school or college, they'll be ill prepared for the world that they live in.
I think there's differences within technology. Like having an iPod Touch, like I had a bit later than hers. I didn't get mine until year 7 or sixth grade. I think that was a good choice. But talking about like the uses for that, I think maybe at school, like the key things you need to use in technology are like the Microsoft Office key softwares like Word, PowerPoint, Excel. Like like people like you should like eventually over time get how to use all these fancy technology like social network apps. But like in the real world, no one's gonna judge you on your ability to how you can like get 1,000 followers on Instagram. Like no one really cares about that too much. Like when you're applying for jobs in colleges, people don't look at that. They want to make sure you're able, like in success in life, to use apps like in your and technology in your job, and none of this technology you can use in job, or these very niche jobs.
I think I would kind of disagree to a certain extent that this is like on the rise, at least in terms of like in different professions and stuff. So like it's important to learn how to use it. Luckily, I'm sure we know how to use all these better than most of you guys, just because we're using them. So it's that same idea of setting restrictions, but still letting them be exposed to it. Because it's definitely a tool for, I know we had a speaker come into my one of my classes the other day talking about how like he's an Instagram influencer, and that's like where he's like found all these contacts and like, so definitely you should know how to use it because it's very, very helpful professionally, but there's also the limitations that you have to set.
Get another question before I just have a quick question. So I've seen some research about people who use social media more are reported to be more depressed or anxious. And so there's different theories about why that is. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm in the generation right between where I didn't grow up with this, but then I'm a very frequent user. And so I've like thought about this even in myself, like what life was like before for me and what it's like now. And in some ways it's like opened up the whole world for me, and I feel much more connected to people, and I'm not lonely as much sometimes. Do you know what I mean? But then there's another side to that where I sometimes compare, or I feel like, it's so performative and it's so image based, so you're comparing like your kind of like blooper reel with everybody else's highlight reel. Do you know what I mean? So I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experiences on mental health related to social media.
I think a big part of that is definitely what you were saying, where you're like, there's a lot of comparing in the same way that it had been when like people started doing magazines and like where they would edit pictures, or you could go into Photoshop and change something and be basically this like impossibly perfect person, and like no one would know. They would just think, oh, that's how I should look and I don't look like that. That's terrible. Like, how did this happen? And so part of it is a level of understanding. Like you need to know that just like these people, most of them probably don't look like that. There's filters and things specifically for looking different. There's also like, you need to have like, I think a level of self-understanding, like that's just, I'm this person and that's another person. Part of like how widespread like depression and anxiety is from people who like frequent social media, I think also has to do with how news sources are like delivering to like the people who go to them, because instead of like big stories, like they'll have like the every now and again the feel good, like, this protest just happened and it's cool and they're fighting for like justice and equality and things like that. But a lot of the time it's just one after another, like 30 seconds of this horrid thing is happening here, this happened here, and it's terrible. And like every single news source is like one like brutality like act upon the police, and it's like none of it is like very positive. It's all like just one after another, because that's what people like, they're driven to that, like, I need to know about that, that's terrible. And so it's just this sort of cycle, that like vicious cycle that's like continuing itself, because like people are like, it's all of this bad stuff is happening and I should know about it, and then they see more bad stuff and like, I need to know about that. And so it just sort of like eats away at people.
Yeah, I think speaking to the social media part of that, I think a lot of avoiding that like anxiety is just being aware that that a certain amount of it is fake. Like it's a highlight reel, like you were saying. So I think just being conscious of the fact that there are apps like Photoshop and Facetune where you can edit your pictures and like make yourself look like the very best you can. And just, being conscious that, the photo that celebrity posted that looks super casual probably took an hour to shoot, and they had like a whole like hair and makeup and wardrobe team like working to make sure that they got that like effortlessly chic look, but it's not effortless. It like took a long time.
I'm also kind of talking about though, like when I was in high school, I didn't know parties were happening, and so I didn't know I was about to have something. Do you know what I mean? And so I was able to just be at home and do my art and not worry about it. And now it's like I'm aware I wasn't invited. Why didn't I get that event? And like, you know what I mean? And I'm imagining when I was in high school what that would have felt like to me, and how, constantly being aware of like everyone's having more fun than I am. I already felt that way, but I didn't have social media.
Just responding to that really quickly, I still don't know when parties are happening. I don't get invited to parties. But I think a lot of it is just, teaching your kid to have enough like self-confidence and self-validation that they don't feel like isolated or ostracized just because they didn't get invited to that party. So just having a baseline of like, you don't have to be popular to like be okay with yourself is really important.
I think all these social media websites like really promote fake individuals, and really I think build character and like show like who's actually got real character underneath their skin. Like I know some of my friends who are like, when I was younger, I wouldn't say I said they would have character and stuff. Like with the social media, I see the way they've changed and how they've like, some people have like edited photos to make them look better and like fulfill the image that they want to fulfill, even though like I know that's not you, and which I find kind of like depressing, because I know they've been all caught up in this fake like ideas. Like I think there's a good analogy with this. I'm like quite into history, and like the Kennedy family, they're like with John F. Kennedy. His father, Joseph Kennedy Sr., was really into promoting the family image, so that all of their children could be quite well politicians, even though their family had so many issues underneath, like practically killing one of their daughters through memory lobotomy. I don't know what it's called. It's like some like surgery of the head, and like the mother disowning the children, one of the child, because they went off and like married some Protestant, which is like I find kind of weird. Except they promoted themselves and into this fake image, and it's just like social media is doing today, which I think is absolutely terrible. And you need to stick with yourself and be your own character and be your own person, because there's nothing worse than fake people in society.
I mean, it's like 11. Yeah.
All right, thank you all for coming out, and thank you for questions.